Good afternoon. Today I will be speaking to you all about the controversial issue of gun control. Everyone has their own views and opinions on the subject, but I'm going to discuss with you why I don't feel changing the gun laws will stop gun violence. I have researched the statistics on murder in various states, and the states having more restrictive gun laws actually have a higher rate of murder by a firearm. This study was published on Wikipedia in 2010 for gun violence in the United States. The Brady campaign score for gun laws ranges 0 to 100, 100 being most restricted and 0 being least restrictive. In California, the gun law score was 80, the most restrictive of all the states, and yet their murders for 2010 were at 1,811, with 1,257 being committed using a firearm. That percentage of gun violence is 69.4%. New Jersey has a GLS of 72, and in 2010 there were 363 murders committed, with 246 committed with a firearm, and that's a percentage of 67.8% of murders being committed with a gun. This is the second most restrictive state for gun laws in the U.S. Hawaii has a 50 on the GLS with a low murder total of 24, with only 7 being committed using a firearm, and a percentage of 29.2 for gun-related homicides. Lastly, Vermont has a 6 on the GLS, the lowest on the campaign score, and a total of murders at 7, with only 2 being committed using a firearm. That's 28.6% for gun-related murders. Looking at this, it would appear that the harder the gun laws are, the more violence is carried out with them. Look at how many illegal guns are already in circulation, and there is no way to pull them all off the streets. In 2005, a Gallup poll of 1,012 adults was conducted and found that 67% of adults own guns for self-protection and the protection of family and personal property. The government is trying to push for stricter gun laws, but what I don't feel they are acknowledging is that most of the time the violence isn't being committed by law-abiding citizens. It's being committed by people who are mentally unstable and have gotten their hands on a firearm. Changing the laws won't stop this from happening, because as long as there are unregistered guns out there, then there will always be a threat. Gun control views don't tend to be substantially affected by shootings. According to the website justfacts.com, the public does support many gun control policies. They support background checks, bans on semi-automatic handguns, bans on high-capacity clips, not allowing felons or mentally ill to own firearms, and limiting the number per guns individuals can own, as well as requiring all guns to be registered. Very few are in favor of having no guns at all. In the book Gun Control, Preventing Violence or Crushing Constitutional Rights, the topic is weighed in on whether guns make the U.S. a violent and dangerous place to live. I don't feel this is the case. Many guns are used for our protection by law enforcement as well as our military, not to mention our personal guns used to defend our families and property. As stated in the title of the book, removing our guns is in essence crushing our constitutional right to bear arms. In another book titled Gun Control by Angela Valdez and John Ferguson Jr., the real reason behind the Second Amendment is called into question by some as a misunderstanding of a historical artifact, and it is said to open the door to danger and violence. It also poses a great question: who is in charge of gun control, and then who is responsible for gun violence? Who do you think should be in charge? I think it's common sense who should be held responsible for gun violence, and that is the person pulling the trigger. We already have gun laws in place that require background checks and registering firearms. Even with these requirements, there are still violent acts being committed by people who don't legally own a firearm. And despite the tragic school shootings that have taken place and the many innocent child deaths that have happened because a loaded gun was left in a child's reach, we can't remove all guns altogether, because 1, there are too many in circulation, and 2, it's not constitutional to take away our right to bear arms. So what I want to know is what gun law is going to change the violence. There are far too many guns in circulation to try and control it now. Thank you.